Two senior engineers get pulled into the same incident call. Production's down. Revenue's bleeding. Live right now in front of everyone. Same information, same dashboard, same 12 minutes on the clock before leadership starts asking uncomfortable questions. One of them starts talking out loud. Okay, when did this start? What changed right before it started? Is this actually new or did we just start noticing it? The other one goes quiet, head down, diving straight into logs, deep, fast, alone. 6 minutes later, the quiet one is still buried in logs, still hasn't found it. The one who talked it out loud already found the deploy that broke it, already rolling it back. Same skill level, same experience, same crisis. Genuinely different outcome. And it wasn't luck. It was a specific, nameable difference in how one of them was thinking. Today, we're breaking down exactly what that difference is and, honestly, 4 more like it. The actual research-backed things that separate programmers who consistently perform well under pressure from equally smart programmers who just don't as reliably. Number 1, they think out loud on purpose even when they're alone. That engineer from the incident call narrating, when did this start? What changed? That's not a personality quirk. There's actual cognitive science behind it. It's called verbalization effects. And there's decades of research going back to work on what's called think aloud protocols, originally used just to study how experts solve problems that accidentally discovered something else. The act of verbalizing your reasoning, even to nobody, even just muttering to yourself, forces your brain to slow down and check its own logic in a way silent thinking just doesn't reliably. Here's why that matters, specifically under pressure. Silent thinking lets you skip steps. Your brain can feel like it's reasoning carefully, while actually jumping straight to a half-formed hunch. Talking it out, even quietly, makes the gaps in your own logic audible to yourself. You catch the moment your reasoning doesn't actually connect, because you literally hear the sentence not making sense. Successful programmers, researchers studying expert debugging have found do this constantly, not because they were taught to, because somewhere along the way, they discovered it works and it became automatic. Number 2, they ask what changed before they ask what's wrong. This one sounds almost too simple to matter, but it's genuinely one of the biggest predictors of fast versus slow debugging. Weaker debugging instincts default to symptom first thinking. Something's broken. So start examining the broken thing directly. Poke at it. Stronger debugging instincts default to something different. Context first thinking. Before touching the broken thing at all, ask what was different right before it broke. What deployed? What config changed? What traffic pattern shifted? Here's the underlying reason this works so well. A bug, almost by definition, is a deviation from a working state, which means the fastest path to the cause is usually finding the deviation, not staring harder at the symptom. Symptom first thinking treats a bug like a mystery you solve through investigation in the room. Context. First thinking treats it like a diff. Something changed. Find the diff, find the cause. Number 3, they hold 2 competing theories at once instead of committing early. This is genuinely one of the harder ones to actually do psychologically because your brain really doesn't like the state. There's a well-documented bias called confirmation bias. Obviously, everyone's heard of it. But here's the specific way it wrecks debugging. The moment you form a hypothesis, oh, it's probably the database connection, your brain almost involuntarily starts filtering evidence to fit that theory. You notice the logs that support it. You skim past or half explain away the ones that don't. Programmers who consistently perform well under pressure have trained themselves out of this, at least partially, not by being smarter or somehow immune to the bias, by deliberately holding a second competing theory in parallel, specifically to fight against that filtering instinct. Okay, it might be the database, but if it's not the database, what else would produce exactly this symptom? That second theory isn't there to be right. It's there to keep the first theory honest by giving your brain something to actually compare evidence against instead of just collecting confirmations for one story. Number 4, they know the difference between I understand this and I can predict this. Okay, this one connects to something we've actually covered before on this channel. Metacognitive accuracy, the gap between recognizing something as familiar and genuinely understanding it well enough to use. Here's the specific version that shows up under pressure. A weaker signal is, yeah, I've seen this error before. That feels like understanding. It isn't necessarily. A stronger signal, and so the one successful programmers actually rely on, is being able to predict what should happen next before checking. If it's the database connection, then this specific other metric should also be elevated. Let me check that before I commit to this theory. That prediction step is doing something really specific. It's converting a vague feeling of familiarity into a testable claim. If the prediction's right, genuine confidence actually earned. If it's wrong, you just avoided burning 15 minutes chasing a theory that only felt correct because it was familiar, not because it was actually verified. Number 5, and this is, honestly, the one people resist the most because it sounds like giving up. They know exactly when to stop debugging alone and ask for help. There's research on what's called the Einstellung effect, a term from problem-solving psychology describing what happens when your brain gets locked into one specific approach and genuinely can't see an obviously different path even when it's sitting right there. You've probably felt this, staring at the same 15 lines for 20 minutes and then someone glances over your shoulder and immediately spots it. Not because they're smarter, because they don't have your particular locked-in frame. Weaker instinct, treating asking for help as a personal failure, something to delay as long as possible, to preserve the appearance of competence. Successful programmers, researchers studying high-performing engineering teams tend to have a genuinely different internal threshold for this. Not, I'll ask when I'm truly stuck, as a last resort. More like, if I've been circling the same 3 hypotheses for more than a few minutes, that's a signal. Itself, that I'm probably locked into a frame I can't see out of alone. That's not weakness. It's a pattern recognition, actually, just aimed at their own thinking instead of at the code. Now, here's the honest complication, because I don't want to make it sound like these 5 things are like a checklist you memorize and suddenly perform under pressure. All 5 of these are genuinely harder to do in the moment than their opposites. Thinking out loud feels slower and a little exposing, especially early on. Holding 2 competing theories feels less decisive, less confident. Admitting a feeling of understanding might just be recognition, not real comprehension. That's genuinely uncomfortable to sit with. And asking for help early, that one fights against, honestly, a pretty deep instinct in a lot of technical people to prove competence by solving things alone. Which is exactly why these 5 things reliably separate people, because they all cost something in the moment that the easier, more comfortable default doesn't cost. Nobody accidentally stumbles into all 5. You have to decide to pay that small, uncomfortable cost over and over until it stops feeling like a cost at all and just becomes how you think. So here's the truth all of this points to. Successful programmers don't have some fundamentally different brain running some mysterious extra process the rest of us are missing. What they have is 5 specific learnable habits, each one slightly uncomfortable, each one working directly against a natural cognitive default. Verbalizing instead of staying silent. Asking what changed instead of just staring at what's broken. Holding a second theory instead of committing early. Testing a prediction instead of trusting familiarity. And knowing when their own thinking has gotten locked in, early enough to actually ask for help before 20 wasted minutes turn into an hour. None of that is talent, exactly. It's 5 small, repeated choices, made under real pressure again and again until they stop being choices at all. Which one of these 5 hit closest to home for you? The one you're genuinely good at? Or honestly, maybe the one you know you should be doing and just don't yet? Tell me in the comments. I want to know which one's the hardest for you specifically.